possible then to improve and chart a new course.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. At least 5 worshippers were killed and 35 others injured when a suspected suicide bomber detonated an explosive inside a mosque in Maiduguri, the capital of Nigeria's Borno state, during evening prayers. China's Ministry of Commerce has slammed the United States for imposing an oil blockade on Venezuela, saying arbitrary tanker interception may disrupt the normal operation of the international energy market and cause other security risks. Israelis in Ashdod mourned the loss of 27-year-old Dan El-Qaim, who was killed in the shooting attack on Sydney's Bondi Beach, as they attended a funeral procession for him. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova says that Russia sees slow but steady progress in peace talks with the US on Ukraine and alleged that Western European powers were trying to torpedo the progress. Pope Leo calls for peace in all the war-struck parts of the world in his maiden Urbi et Orbi message from the ramparts of the Vatican Church. Authorities say U.S. immigration agents were involved in a shooting in Glen Burnie, Maryland, during an operation targeting 2 men alleged to be in the country illegally. Officials say the driver rammed ICE vehicles and drove at agents, prompting gunfire. 14 countries, including France, Britain and Germany, condemned Israel's approval of 90 new settlements in the occupied West Bank, warning the move undermines peace efforts and prospects for a Palestinian state. Acting chairman of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Tariq Rahman, has arrived in Dhaka after nearly 17 years in exile. He has emerged as a leading contender for Prime Minister ahead of the February 12 elections, as he was cleared of corruption and other charges after ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was ousted. And because Russia has accused the United States of reviving piracy and lawlessness in the Caribbean, Moscow says the U.S. blockade of Venezuela is behind these actions. Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova called the situation a return of long-forgotten theft and banditry. She urged de-escalation and said she hopes President Trump's pragmatism will prevent disaster. Zakharova has also confirmed and reaffirmed Russia's support for Nicolás Maduro's government. She said Moscow backs efforts to protect Venezuela's sovereignty and maintain stability in the country. Let's listen in to what the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said.
Сегодня мы становимся буквально свидетелями правового беспредела в Карибском море, где возрождаются, казалось бы, давно забытые практики незаконного присвоения чужого имущества, а именно пиратство, рейдерство и бандитизм. Последовательно выступаем за деэскалацию сложившейся ситуации, поддержание отношений доверия, предсказуемости. Важно не допустить развития событий по деструктивному сценарию. И мы рассчитываем, что присущие президенту США Трампу прагматизм и рациональность позволят найти взаимоприемлемые для сторон решения в рамках международно-правовых норм.
And now joining me in the discussion is Shyam Batra, who is a British politician and political commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you, Mr. Batra, for joining me once again, and a very Merry Christmas to you. Mr. Batra, how do you view Russia's, concern, Russia's statement coming out? Of course, now Venezuela is not just getting the Chinese backing, but also clearly Russia has also spelled out against Trump's aggression in the Caribbean and particularly to counter Maduro's Venezuela.
Yes, I've noticed the standoff for the US blockade for the oil, etc. I mean, they're really going for Russia. But I have to say this to you. Oh yes, and Merry Christmas to all of you there at NewsX.
Sure.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a situation going on right now. Obviously, Trump has got it in for Venezuela, but I have to say that he's in charge of his country and he will do what he thinks is right. Unfortunately, it's not for us to criticize, but I mean, like, the accusation of what's going on with Venezuela. I mean, I believe Russia has got something to do with it as well. Foreign Ministry has condemned the actions of the Venezuelan oil tankers that are going on right now. But I don't know if this is going to scupper the Ukraine and Russian situation with negotiations, but clearly Russia does have support in Venezuela, etc., and does business, I think. So, I mean, like, you know, I have to say that this information belongs to the President of the United States. I mean, they've already hammered Venezuela on the ships, etc., for the saying that the drugs and everything else that's going on. But I mean, if this is going to be a blockade and the Venezuelan can't export the oil, etc., it's going to be quite a bit of a mess. It could end up into a small war, I don't know, into an escalated war. But I think that Maduro's government has to communicate with the US with all what's going on right now. But I understand that US forces have also intercepted and seized multiple ships of Venezuelan with the oil tankers that are there. So I think legal diplomatic actions have to take place. And I don't know what's happening in the world, but why people are just wanting to fight every second and steal other people's things. I mean, Trump has got lots to do in America. He's got his own country to solve. But to go outside of the jurisdiction and then upset the Russians as well is not going to help matters for longer term information to be done. You know, there is negotiations going on in the background. The tensions are intensifying with the US and Venezuela. Russia and China both back Caracas diplomacy. But while the US frames its actions around sanctions, enforcement, and combining illicit activities, I don't know what they're going to do about it.
All right, sure. We'll wait out for what really happens from here on, but thank you for your comment there, and do continue to stay on with us. Viewers, Turkish authorities say that they have detained 115 suspected members of the Islamic State group accused of planning attacks during Christmas and New Year celebrations. According to Istanbul's chief prosecutor, police carried out coordinated raids at 124 locations across the city after receiving intelligence that IS supporters were preparing attacks, particularly targeting non-Muslims. Officers seized firearms, ammunition, and organizational documents during the operation. Officials said the suspects were in contact with Islamic State operatives outside Turkey, and efforts are continuing to track down 22 more individuals still at large. The arrests come amid heightened security across Turkey, which particularly and regularly targets suspected IS workers. The country shares a long border with Syria, where the extremist group remains active despite years of military pressure. Authorities say the operation has disrupted potential attacks and helped prevent violence during the holiday period. Moving ahead, viewers, Russia says it had made a proposal to France regarding Laurent Venatia, who is a French researcher currently jailed in Moscow. Venatia was sentenced to 3 years in 2024 for violating Russia's foreign agent laws. He is now also facing additional espionage charges, but France has called his detention arbitrary. Moreover, French President Macron has denied that Venatia worked for the French state, calling his arrest part of a Russian misinformation campaign. Meanwhile, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said that Russia has contacted France and made an offer, but it's now up to Paris to respond. Earlier this month, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that he would personally look into the case. Venatia's family is cautiously optimistic following the Kremlin announcement. They hope that he could be freed during the New Year holidays. Their lawyer has also expressed confidence in French diplomacy, hinting that the discussion on Venatia's release could be taken up in the upcoming talks between Russia and France. And I request now Mr. Batra to join us back into the discussion here. Mr. Batra,
Yes.
now in such cases of espionage, usually the governments take a very tough stance. Do we see Russia easing out on Venezuela?
Well, Laurent Vanachet is a French researcher, political scientist. I've read about him quite some time ago. I think you're right, he got arrested in 24 June, I believe. I mean, he studied Soviet space and many other things. I don't understand where this has come from, but obviously being French and with the European Union pretty much attacking Russia all the time behind the scenes as well, it doesn't help matters. But I mean, like, they're saying that he's accused of failing to register as a foreign agent. But he's been conducting research in Russia, as you know. I think that there might be some compassionate grounds here. Both parties, France and Russia, should start communicating with each other and creating a dialogue. Again, it all belongs to diplomacy, doesn't it? They don't seem to have this diplomacy urgency in the world. It's just get the guns out, get the bullets out, and let's start fighting. I mean, this sort of thing can't happen continuously. But I think Russia is being pushed into a very deep corner from the European Union, from the UK, and has allies in the south, you know, India, China, etc. They're not going to take this nonsense very lightly. This, again, all scuppers negotiations, and I think it might be some kind of negotiation deal where he does get freed. I'm quite confident that Russia will free him. But it is a new espionage case as well, which has been further related in 2025. So they're saying that if he is found guilty, he could end up staying a lot longer in prison for this. But then there's no one to really technically defend him apart from his solicitor, his lawyer. I think Russia is reaching out to the rest of the world to say that, look, we don't want to have wars with you or fights, but we have to do what we have to do. And the thing is that it is about time Russia gets to the front of the table and starts talking properly, rather than the Americans getting involved. And as I said, there are too many chefs in the kitchen. This is all part and parcel of the same thing. There are a lot of prisoners in jail there now in the Russian system. And it is time, I think, to start opening a good natural diplomacy method, because if we don't have trust and honesty in the world, what else do we have left? We've got governments fighting over everything, over money, over oil and everything else. But this guy, I think, he's been possibly a scapegoat, I don't know. No one's going to damage Russian and its philosophies and everything else unless there is a sincere reason and that the man is found fully guilty and agrees or says, yes, I did do it. But in this situation, this is some kind of political policy going on between France and Russia. And I think Macron should reach out to Putin and close the door down and bring this gentleman back to where he was. So I'm all for diplomacy, and I think that if the two don't communicate, this could actually hinder his release, I think.
But if Russia does release him, how do you think is it going to better France-Russia ties?
Well, I would love to see,
particularly in the context of Ukraine negotiations that are underway.
Look, I think the European Union is a cluster of countries. I don't think they really need to. I don't think they all really need to start arbitrarily fighting with each other just because they're supporting Ukraine. You can't have one party doing one thing and another party doing another. I always stay neutral. I mean, I love Ukraine and I love Russia, and I don't want to be in the middle fighting and standing for one side. That is wrong. You can't, in a boxing match, you know, you don't do this. You fight for who is going to win. But in this situation, this is political diplomacy. That doesn't seem to exist anymore in our world. It seems to be that get the guns out, let's start fighting with people. But I've always said, if you want to fight somebody, fight them in their pocket. Let them pay. It's all about money. It isn't about anything else. But you can't have this. And I would love to see France, if Macron is listening to this, I would love him to reach out to Putin. Because if you don't speak, you don't know. And if you don't communicate, this is the most important angle of our lives. If we don't communicate with business, families, or anything else, what else do we have left? We can't just keep waging wars. We have too many going on. We're floating in space, we're a world, and no one is coming together. So I would love to see this happen. And if that happens, then perhaps the European Union can wake up a little bit and say, well, look, let's bring Russia to the table. Let's start doing things. This poor man is stuck there in this situation. I don't think he's done anything wrong as such, but he has been condemned and it's arbitrary, and everybody's demanding his release now. It's another situation gone wrong, I think. But I don't think Russia is a bad boy. They're just reaching out to the rest of the world to say, hey, we want to end this, but come to the table with us, talk to us as well. Being isolated doesn't work. And Russia is by no means isolated because it has some very big countries backing them. You know, it's not about just oil, it's also about human life. They don't necessarily need to keep this man behind bars, but it's become a political tabloid story now. So it does need to come out in the open. And Macron does need to reach out to Putin. No one needs to be a bigger man here. You know, Russia is Russia, and what has happened has happened. But when we've got political hostages sitting in the background, I think it's a little bit unfair. But they have their reasons. And again, it's his country, like I always say about Trump. This is his country. If he wants to call ICE in and get all the immigrants out, that's his choice. You know, you can't tell them. So I think he's been held like a yo-yo at the moment. But we don't know the full story, you see. We're only like journalists investigating what is really happening.
Sure. Well, but interesting anyway to speak to you on this, and thank you very much once again for your comment. And with that was, we now move ahead. Now, following the condemnation of Israel's settlement plan in West Bank by 14 countries, Israeli Minister Gideon Saar has now slammed the criticism. Saar has stated that no foreign government can restrict Israeli citizens' right to settle in West Bank. Saar went on to say that any such call by a foreign government is, quote, discriminatory against Jews and morally wrong. The Israeli foreign minister has also said that the decision to establish 11 settlements in West Bank has been taken to help address the security threats Israel faces, among other things. All right, I now welcome Yossi Kapar-Wasser, who's an Israeli intelligence and security expert. Thank you, Mr. Kapar-Wasser, for joining us in this discussion. How would you respond to the criticism that's coming in on this comment?
Well, you know, this issue has been disputed for a long time, and I don't think there's anything new about it. The settlements reflect the fact that this is disputed land according to the Oslo agreements between us and the Palestinians. And we settle on areas that are public lands, trying to avoid any harm to private ownership of land. And we do that because of security reasons and because of national reasons. We consider the areas in dispute part of Israel. So until we reach an agreement with the Palestinians about the fate of these disputed lands, we keep the settlement in these places. And this was agreed upon in the Oslo agreements. There is no place to any complaints in this respect.
All right. And what do you think is it going to be, what kind of response is it going to elicit, this comment, especially from the settlers in West Bank?
Sorry, can you repeat it? I didn't.
How do you think the people in the West Bank are going to receive this comment?
Well, there are all kinds of people in the West Bank. There are people, there are Palestinians, there are Israelis.
The Palestinians,
each
of course.
is going to accept it differently, of course. The Palestinians seek to have ownership of the entire land. Actually, they don't agree to the fact that Israel exists at all in the first place. It's not only about the territories that are disputed since '67, that they dispute the areas beyond these territories. So they are, of course, against it. And the Israelis that settle over there are, of course, very happy with the fact that their settlements are being fortified and strengthened so that they can face the terror attempts by the Palestinians who reside around them.
All right, sure. Mr. Kapawasser, I requested to stay on as there's some more breaking news now coming in. The Israeli military has reported that it has killed a member of the Quds Force in Lebanon. The Quds Force is the overseas arm of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Earlier this week, Israeli warplanes reportedly bombed the valleys of Humin, Wadi Azza and Nemiria regions located in southern Lebanon. Israeli military also issued a statement about these strikes, saying that they were only attacking Hezbollah launching sites and their other military infrastructure. I now request Mr. Kapawasser to join us back for his comment on this latest killing of the member of the Quds Force there in Lebanon.
Quds Force should not be present in Lebanon, definitely not in order to strengthen Hezbollah's capabilities to carry out terror attacks against Israel. This is the only purpose for which they are present there. This is an organization that is committed to strengthening the capabilities of Iran's proxies to carry out terror attacks against Israel. They have no place in Lebanon after the ceasefire. Definitely not in southern part of Lebanon, but not in Lebanon in general. And I think it's something that is also accepted by the Lebanese government. I don't understand why the Lebanese government allows these kinds of people to stay in Lebanon, and they probably didn't allow it, and it's being done ignoring their will. So I think that this
Mr. Kapawasser, is there any information on who this member is that has been targeted and taken down?
Yes, he's a top operative in the Unit 840 that is responsible for improving the capabilities of Hezbollah and other terror groups to carry out attacks against Israel.
And is this going to have any significant impact
high-ranking
on...
operator.
How much of an impact do you think it's going to have on the Hezbollahs and the Quds Force? Is it going to weaken their, cause any further, in your opinion?
Of course, it weakens them, but anytime we hit one of their operatives, and definitely an Iranian operative that is overseeing what they're doing in order to regain the capabilities to harm Israel, anytime we do that, we weaken them. That's for sure. The major question is whether this is going to be the straw that's going to break the camel's back, because we keep operating against the attempts of Hezbollah to redeploy in the south and to rearm themselves. And why? Because when we have to do it, because the Lebanese government, which is also trying to do that, is very weak and do.
The real challenge which has emerged time and again is how these groups are rearming themselves, even if some commanders are taken down or eliminating, which is why that question came to you from me.
Yeah, well, of course, they managed somehow to smuggle weapons from Syria in spite of the efforts of the Syrian government to prevent that from happening. They get money from Iran through Turkey and other places, and they use this money in order to rearm themselves and to produce new weapons, and they keep deploying their forces in the south, which is not allowed to them according to the ceasefire agreement. They ignore it. They breach the agreement day in, day out. So they leave us no option, because the government of Lebanon doesn't do enough. It leaves us no option but to carry out these attacks against the infrastructure of Hezbollah and their patrons in Iran whenever they appear in southern Lebanon.
All right, sure. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kapawasser, for joining us and providing all that information to us. And with that, viewers, moving ahead, Pope Leo has used his Christmas Urbi et Orbi message to call for an end to wars across the world. Speaking from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica to thousands gathered in Vatican City, the Pope appealed for peace and dialogue amid ongoing global conflicts. He lamented political and military violence in Ukraine, Sudan, Mali, Myanmar, and along the Thailand-Cambodia border. Referring to Ukraine, the Pope said people there continue to be tormented by violence as Russian forces threaten key eastern cities. Pope Leo urged all parties to silence their weapons and find the courage for sincere, direct, and respectful dialogue with the support of the international community. He also highlighted the suffering of migrants and refugees, particularly those crossing the American continent, stressing compassion for the poor and displaced. The Pope avoided political references by name but reinforced his message that rejecting those in need is incompatible with Christian values. Let's listen in.
Da lui invochiamo giustizia, pace e stabilità per il Libano, la Palestina, Israele, la Siria, confidando in queste parole divine. Praticare la giustizia darà pace, onorare la giustizia darà tranquillità e sicurezza per sempre. Imploriamo pace e consolazione per le vittime di tutte le guerre in atto nel mondo, specialmente di quelle dimenticate, e per quanti soffrono a causa dell'ingiustizia, dell'instabilità politica, della persecuzione religiosa e del terrorismo. Ricordo in modo particolare i fratelli e le sorelle del Sudan, del Sud Sudan, del Mali, del Burkina Faso e della Repubblica Democratica del Congo. Il bambino Gesù ispiri quanti in America Latina hanno responsabilità politiche, perché nel far fronte alle numerose sfide sia dato spazio al dialogo per il bene comune e non alle preclusioni ideologiche e di parte. Al Principe della Pace domandiamo che illumini il Myanmar con la luce di un futuro di riconciliazione, ridoni speranza alle giovani generazioni, guidi l'intero popolo birmano su sentieri di pace e accompagni quanti vivono privi di dimora, di sicurezza o di fiducia.
And that's all we have time for. Do keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.